Now tuning in to Earbud Media. Audio for everyone.
I'm already very uncomfy.
I am uncomfortable with the energy we've created in the studio today.
We are talking about so many things that I find personally very sensitive to me. One, time. Second, you. Third, there's someone watching me record this, and something about that feels so... like, this is a team no perceive kind of podcast.
A lot of sacred spaces are being violated right now. A lot of dark things are happening.
He says, as we are both just like looking away from each other and playing with fidgets.
Just desperately trying to not make eye contact.
Oh God, folks. Anyways.
This is so much fun already.
This is a lot. Hi, welcome to Into the Being Perceived now, I guess.
Ooh. Welcome to Into the Time.
Oh, no.
It's Into the Tenet, baby.
I hate this.
There it is. There it is.
Just know, folks, that we are doing this simply because we love you. If it wasn't that we loved you, we would not be talking about time and also numbers. And also, what is it called? Pincher movements?
Temporal pincer maneuvers.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We are doing it, folks, because we love you and we know how much you love Elizabeth Debicki.
And we've made a blood contract to talk about most Robert Pattinson media.
It's true.
So. You guys really shouldn't have signed that pact with the devil. I know your guys' Spotify numbers have been off the charts, but it's like, it seems like it's not gonna... Seems like that's gonna come to bite you.
I completely agree.
Yeah, was it really worth it? Who can say? You know?
It feels very... odd, I must say, to introduce you to the pod because you've been on here before.
I have been on the pod sometimes against my will. Sometimes I'm just called into the room and it's like, now I'm a guest on a podcast for 45 seconds.
That's true.
But this is my first time as a proper guest on your podcast.
So everyone say hi to Chris. He's here.
Woo.
We've had other Chris's before, specifically Villager's Voice Chris. Now, here's what I'll say. Christopher, I usually ask this question, and I'm very curious about what you are going to say to it. So, for anyone who doesn't... for anyone who has the audacity not to know who you are, Christopher, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
I am Allie's boyfriend, several years, and also professional Chris Nolan simp, which is why I'm here today.
Literally, one of the things we talked about the first time we ever met was about Christopher Nolan. And it's honestly fucked up.
It's funny you bring up the first time we met because I was going to bring up how one of the first things we talked about when we met was how you had a Twilight podcast and was how you made me promise you to never listen to it.
So yeah, here's the fucked up thing, folks. I told Christopher the first time that we met to literally never listen to this podcast. He knows what we do by proxy because he hears me screaming from the other room. Mm-hmm. And also that one time I recorded in your bedroom before we moved. But he has no idea about what we do on the show. I
will say, it's not that I don't have any idea. I've watched all of you. You made me watch the 50 Shades.
That's true.
I have seen all of the Twilight films.
That's true.
I've experienced a majority of the media that you've covered. You made me watch Van Helsing.
I did make you watch that.
I am an inadvertent third party to a lot of this podcast bullshit.
That's really fair.
Yeah, and it's just so glad that now I get to put my bullshit onto you.
Great.
Now you get to take some of the weight.
It's a true, partnership in this space.
And I truly do feel this movie is worth 350 Shades and a Van Helsing. In terms of karma.
Wow.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, fuck it.
I do like the idea, too, of... because a lot of people are discovering us for the first time and starting from the beginning.
Oh
which
my
I hate
God,
that idea. But people are doing it, and that's fine. But I do like the idea of just someone listening to all of us from the beginning and just imagining a lurking Chris in the background of everything. Because he's always tangentially there. He just never really made it.
It's true. You are always there.
That is one of the things, because again, I have never listened to the podcast. I have obeyed your wishes. But the thing is, I don't know what you've told about me to
Just a lot.
to the space. And so there's just this thing of like, there's a mythos of who I am to a lot of people.
Before we get too deep into your backstory, Chris, how are you? And what is a happy thing that's happened to you recently?
I am doing pretty good.
Please don't look at me.
It is I'm going to try and just make direct eye contact as I say this entire thing. It's December 16th as we're recording this, which means we are balls deep in the Christmas season.
The Christmas creep is here.
And honestly, something that has made it just like incredibly special and super nice this year is Allie got me. I didn't even know this was for me initially. She got like a wooden advent calendar that has like, it's really, really nice, really ornate. It lights up with everything. It's not a nativity scene. It's just some deer. It's, I was like, oh, cool. Advent calendar. Neat. But then on the first day, she's like, oh, take down the advent calendar. And then inside each of the doors is a little note with a reason of why she loves me. And then an associated present for every day. And so it's like, Christmas is all month long. Because it's like, as a kid, I always deeply envied those Hanukkah motherfuckers for getting 8 days of gifts. And so now I get 24 days of gifts. And so I can I beat them.
All I'm going to say
and that's why I'm happy.
I am a Scorpio and I don't have any feelings. And you are really calling me out for having a lot of feelings right now.
It's incredibly sweet. And I know it goes against your cool brand.
I have no feelings, Chris. I don't know why you're doing this to me.
It's extremely sweet.
Also, we have to break down the mythos that Allie in any way has a cool brand from this podcast. That is not.
I'm just rolling up having a Twilight
Edward Cullen style with the sunglasses, with the fucking Ray-Bans. Like, that is not the energy.
I just assume that you are like the older sister on like the Wild Thornberries. Is just like too cool for school, long hair covering one eye. I just figured that's the vibe.
Screams.
The one who doesn't speak English and is voiced by Flea, I think.
I'm just always yelling in gibberish and running around. Just a little behind the scenes about the Advent, and then we're going to never talk about it again, is that I convinced Chris of why I was buying boxes and boxes of things, because I said that we were having a giveaway on our Twitter account. And he fully believed it.
Yeah, because it was just the sort of thing where all of a sudden all of these enormous packages came in from just like different Etsy sellers, and I was like, huh, cool. And I never gave it another second of mine. I was just like, neat. Moving on with my life.
Oh my god.
And,
oh my god.
Yeah. Again, not listening to this podcast has paid off for me in many ways.
I agree. I completely agree. That's great. I cannot believe you brought that up. We will talk about that later. Cody, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am incredibly cozy right now.
Fuck yeah.
I'm drinking a nice tea, and I'm wearing what I can only describe as the most comfortable jacket I've ever owned in my entire life.
How does it feel to be a Cancer?
Listen, do I have this in 3 different colors? Yes. Will I be cycling them out the entirety of winter in Chicago, which is basically till May?
Right.
Yes. Like, this is my truth.
That's really fair.
Great. Thank you. But my happy thing this week is that I officially submitted my first ever, critics ballot.
Whoa.
For the organization I'm in, and I'm feeling very fancy.
How does it feel to be so good at your job?
Where did Tenet place on that ballot? It
was nowhere, actually. I went.
It's so interesting, Chris, that you brought that up, because no one considers Tenet a movie, I think, other than you. I think, Christopher, I swear to God, I think Nolan just looked at you and was like, this is for my boy, Chris B, and just released it just for you.
You're not far off from what I think is my grander point about Tenet.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's really fair.
Listen, if there was a category of hottest, tallest actress in a film this year, Tenet would be on there. Yeah. Absolutely. But there was no such question, unfortunately.
That's
maybe
such
next
a bummer.
year.
A tragedy.
I am doing okay.
What is a happy thing that happened to you recently?
Oh my god. Oh no. So, school is a thing. So, I don't know if we've talked about this in the podcast before. I feel like probably, but I don't remember. Because if it happened anywhere between 200 episodes ago, I don't recognize it. But I found out today that Jack Black's name isn't Jack, and I did not know that. And it brought me so much joy to know that there is a real Jacob Black out in the universe.
Oh my God.
So,
Jacob.
his name is Thomas Jacob Black, and he goes by Jack Black. The power, the influence, all I'm saying
Wow.
is...
Thomas is not at all in the realm of possibility of what I could have guessed.
When I think about the cultural influence that Thomas the Train had, and also Thomas Jacob Black, it does kind of connect.
Oh
If you
my
really
God.
think about it. But it did bring me a lot of joy to know that there is a Jacob Black out in the universe who isn't just being an actual asshole all the time.
Yeah, this is finally some positive Jacob Black representation.
Finally.
You know what I mean?
We really need it, and I'm grateful for it, and I appreciate it immensely. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I have told your Twilight story before, just in bits and pieces, but Christopher, could you do me the honor and give us your Twilight backstory?
Yes, I can. So I grew up in St. Helens, Oregon, which, as you know, is the place where they filmed a significant amount of the first Twilight film.
I've heard of
and
things.
virtually none of the other ones, something that my town is still very bitter about. Because the same thing happened to them with the Halloween Town franchise. They got played once, and then they got played a second time. Those fucking suckers. So, when I was in high school, I have memories of my mom is a big sort of like, pop culture, fan person. So she would go out late at night and watch them film scenes from the fire escape of an old elementary school with
my God.
like 20 other equally like cozied up fans of this franchise, just watching them film the same take of a couple of guys in front of a car like a million times over and over again. And like I went with them once and was just like, I don't like, hey, good on all of you for having a hobby, but I just cannot fathom why someone is spending this much time watching people film a movie.
Sure.
So as a result, anytime we do go back to St. Helens for various holidays, there's always just a little bit of a Twilight set tour. We've visited Bella's house at least once.
At least once. Yeah.
As well as the various law offices that were other set dressings.
Yeah, the law office that became...
Yes.
The bookstore.
The scene with the piano is my high school cafeteria. Something that they really do shoot around in that sequence. Again, it's a cafeteria, which does mean that right on the ceiling, there's just, giant stains from either water damage or pudding. It's impossible to tell. But also, probably while they were filming that scene, I doubt it's out of frame, so I doubt they covered it with a curtain or anything. On the back wall, there's an enormous mural of a lion that's just standing majestically over some rocks.
Sure.
And so it's very fun thinking of them filming that sequence, and just right out of frame, there's just a majestic Serengeti. Totally clashing with the vibe.
So wild that you just like lived in the place that people travel to now. And the idea that people travel to St. Helens is always buck wild.
And the first time I heard that, because initially what I heard is that people were traveling mostly for Halloween Town stuff. Sure. Is that they were coming to see like, Old Town. And the first time I heard that, I was like, I've got to stop them. There's nothing there. It's a very small Oregon suburb with a one-screen movie theater and a Taco Bell that shares a parking lot with a McDonald's. So it's like, that's nice. But besides that, you go to the Walmart, you buy some meth, and then you're done. Like, that's the whole city. So yeah, it's been very fun seeing sort of the other cultural side of it. And sort of now that I've given my Twilight backstory, what are y'all's backstories with Christopher Nolan?
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Ooh, the tables have turned.
Because
ask us questions on here. It's a lot of fucking audacity that you have.
Because I will say, I think again, self-proclaimed Chris Nolan simp, entirely is due to the fact that The Dark Knight came out right as I was entering high school.
Same.
And that is the sort of thing that it's like, saw that at that one-screen St. Helens movie theater, and it was just the first time I realized, like, oh, right, movies fucking kick ass. Like, this is everything I like in movies.
Yeah. This
Christopher Nolan fellow sure is somebody I should pay attention to. And then fucking 2 years later, Inception comes out, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is going to be something I have to pay attention to for the next, however many decades.
Cody, what is your history with Christopher Nolan?
Oh god. I watched all of the Batman movies when they came out. I think I watched The Dark Knight Rises like 3 times in theaters.
Whoa.
I don't know what was going on with me back then.
Yeah, that's
But I just felt a desire to like bring friends and be like, let's watch this. And I don't know. And I liked Inception when it came out. I haven't seen it since. And yeah, I think he has some audacity is what I think.
That's true.
The man
but I
is,
generally have a good time.
The man is nothing if not audacious.
That's really
Yeah,
true.
totally. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And bodacious.
Stop it, Christopher. Christopher Nolan, I saw the Batman movie on a date in middle school. It was
Ooh.
The
it was
Batman
cool.
movie.
Shut up, Christopher. And then I saw Inception and had a panic attack during it. And I was like, well, this guy's interesting, I guess. And now it was a talking point when we first met because we both like his movies. You more so than me, but that's okay. Then I watched this and I felt deeply and personally offended that Christopher Nolan was like, what if time? No.
I will say, you are skipping one. We did see Dunkirk in theaters, which
We
featured
did.
another one of your boys.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
true. Yeah.
Fuck, that movie was so good.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something Christopher Nolan knows, it's how to get Allie's boys.
That's
Mhm.
true.
You know, it's really
He's
Listen,
like, what about these white boys, though?
yeah. You watching any Christopher Nolan dude, it's like, oh my god, my favorite white boy.
You could just have a bingo of white boys.
Listen, people have a lot of issues with Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker, but you cannot deny that he brings all the boys to the yard.
That's
true.
You're not
It's true.
wrong.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not wrong.
And for that, we are thankful.
Mhm.
Yes, I completely agree. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Elliot Page in Inception too?
Elliot
Not-
Page plays a major role in Inception.
Okay,
yes.
that's right. Yeah, see, all my favorite white boys. They're just...
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
They're all in there. I love that so much. We do have a couple of current events before we get into this fucking film. And it's a choice. Would you like to do a Penn Badgley corner?
Absolutely, I can. Boop, 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 boop. It's Penn Badgley Corner.
Our favorite small king.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He is doing a auction
Yes.
of himself in his free time, 30 minutes of
In
his
his
time
soul.
in a Zoom call with himself and what this article from buzz.ie
Ooh.
identifies as 3 lucky individuals. So get ready. The bid does end before this episode comes out, so sorry.
So really, you're getting 10 minutes if you're lucky.
That's... I'm glad that there's someone who is practical here. Here's what I'll say. I imagine most people are like myself right now, where you are just very tired of Zoom calls. You don't
Yeah.
give a shit anymore, and that's really fair. I feel like this is the exception. Yeah? Right? Not Inception. Fuck. Words are hard. I feel like I would be very curious to know what he's doing. I want to hear more about his band. I want to know about his
Yes.
baby. Tell me all
Yeah.
of it.
I think I'm in the opposite, where I can't think of someone I want to spend less time on Zoom with than Penn Badgley.
What about Penn Badgley's vibe does not give you, oh, I want to talk to this man for 10 to 30 minutes?
Honestly, I am the sort of person where I don't want to talk to any celebrity ever. I don't want...
That's true.
If I was ever in a room with Christopher Nolan, I'd just... I'd be very scared. I don't know what I can ask him that he has not been asked by 2,000 other sweaty white boys. It's just... I don't want to waste his time like that.
Yeah,
I just want to talk to him, you know? Just turn on your look. I just have a couple of questions.
You want to threaten
Square
him.
up, Penn. What's up?
Never Penn, just Nolan. I just have questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And maybe just talk to Penn Badgley about his hair care routine, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's a worthy question for sure. What's the
I agree.
breakdown?
Not
What's his
from
skincare
a
routine?
stalker sense. I just am genuinely curious. Let's just
Yeah.
talk product. That's all. Just a brief mention of this, because I know myself, and I know that I could quickly turn this podcast into an album review, which is nothing. But those folks, some might call them Swifties, that enjoy Taylor Swift's music, might have noticed in her latest music video that her interpretation of the Reputation era in the Willow music video included the Volturi. I'm just saying.
So,
And that is amazing on several different levels. One, because the idea that Taylor Swift is in the Volturi confirmed now is a choice. But also, knowing her history with Taylor Lautner, it's just like all the red string is there.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Listen, if any celebrity or pop star was secretly a vampire, I would for sure bet my money on Taylor Swift.
It is one. Everyone says Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, I feel like, is the played out option.
It's
It
too
is
easy.
Taylor
too
Swift.
easy. Taylor Swift for like a year was not visible to the public.
All the news outlets are like, "Oh my god, she goes through men so fast." Maybe that's because their blood gets boring. Have you thought of that?
Listen, the math checks out here, I think.
And
someone who has little understanding of Taylor Swift and her whole oeuvre, I think that's a fair assumption to make.
I'm just saying, it all checks out, and people should be more concerned than they are. But that's okay. I'll leave those conspiracy theories for fucking Swift TikTok to deal with.
Yeah.
They can figure that stuff out more than I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready to talk about Tenet?
I have needed to purge this movie from my soul since Labor Day.
That's honestly really fair. Just a little, like, behind the curtain for our listeners. Chris and I have not talked about this movie. We watched it last night, and I made a point to be like, I don't want to talk to you about this. I want to talk to you about it on the show.
Yes.
So I was just, like, furiously adding notes while I was watching.
There was a moment that occurred as they were setting up the art heist that you looked at me,
That's
asked
true.
to pause, and just dead in the eyes with all sincerity asked, "What is going on?"
It's true.
And I, in that moment, had a decision to make. Because this was not my first time seeing Tenet. I am that asshole. I went out and saw this in theaters, like, against a lot of, decisions. But,
Can I personally thank you for single-handedly saving cinema?
Yes, I know.
Please don't give him the ego boost.
I fixed the problem. You are all welcome.
You went once, problem solved.
Wore an N95 mask, went on a Tuesday afternoon. There was no one else in the theater. It was fine. Anyways, to me, part of the Tenet experience... This is also why I initially didn't want to turn on subtitles at the beginning.
I was so furious with you. You were like, what if we just don't?
Because to me, part of this movie is like fucking struggling to figure out what's going on and then just piecing it together with your own, the breadcrumbs that you bring to the table.
We had the subtitles on. It took a long time because we had the DVD version, and apparently the DVD version is like, fuck you. But we paused. I think it was to go to the bathroom. And we were an hour and 50 minutes in, and I looked at Christopher and I said, honest to God, what the fuck is happening?
Yes.
And then he answered my essential question, and then I looked back at the screen and it said, we had an hour left.
Yes.
And the movie just kept going.
And it did keep going. And, like, I explained the plot and then basically said, like, the craziest part is there's an hour left and the most buck wild elements of this movie haven't even come into play yet. You hadn't even seen the fucking scepter of sculptures that construct the algorithm to end time.
That's true.
That hadn't even entered the movie yet.
That's true. I think we had only heard that temporal pincer thing once, and I just, like, did a spit take. I was like, what are you talking about? These are just fake words.
Listen, it's a temporal pincer movement. Everyone knows. Everyone gets
Oh my
it.
God.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we watched this for Robert,
Yes.
and based on the conversation that we both had yesterday, Cody, I imagine you are as confused as me.
I am 100% confused. Like,
Cool.
I did do some Wikipedia reading, whatever. But also, I think that's fucking stupid that I even have to do that after fully engrossing myself in a movie
I completely agree.
and being like, well, and that's not to say, like, I don't like challenging movies or I don't like movies that are inherently confusing or puzzling or have something you have to figure out. But Nolan just did that for no fucking reason.
I completely agree. Agree.
Was it, like, fun? I had kind of a fun time. There was fun that I had. That sounds like I'm being held hostage, but it's not. I did have a good time, but also it just felt like I'm watching Christopher Nolan jerk off in front of everyone.
I completely
Just
agree.
to be like, I am very cool and smart for making this, and you are dumb for not getting it, because I will not bridge the gap in any conceivable way.
Here is my very big, very audacious movie that only I get to make. No one else gets to make
seriously.
any sort of original movie that isn't based off of a comic book or a fucking, old commercial these days. But he's just like, no, they gave me $700 million. I crashed a 747 into an airport for real.
Jesus.
Okay,
and
can we talk about it?
and the story is just, you kind of figure it out.
And like that wasn't even the big moment.
Oh yeah,
That wasn't even like, yeah, of course
That's
it was
like
important
act
to the plot,
2.
but like it wasn't the biggest deal. That looked so real.
Oh yeah,
and when I
that's,
found out it was real, I was like, "Sir, what are you talking about?"
that was
a major factor in my notes because I was crying laughing at that sequence because it was insane. Like, it was just this giant fucking plane going over every conceivable car in the parking lot, in which there were hundreds, it
There
looked
were
like.
so many.
And it went on for so long.
as it's just pissing gold down the runway.
And like
And
at
just
first it
bars
was
of gold.
slow.
Yeah.
At first it was slow. I was like, "Ooh, a slow plane," and then it got faster, and then it just kept crashing into stuff.
It was beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, that was very ballsy. Speaking about a good time, though, we need to talk about this cast
Yes.
because I found out I also had to do a lot of Wikipediaing last night to try and figure out what the fuck was happening in this movie. And I found out after that it took Nolan 20 years to do this. He wrote the script for like 5 years. What the fuck? But then the casting, he just kind of left up to chance. He was like, "Oh, watched Black Klansman? Perfect. John David Washington. I
Yeah.
watched Good Time? Perfect. Our Path's gonna be great in this."
Oh my god.
I watched, what was it, Widows?
Widows,
That
yeah.
Elizabeth Debicki was in. And then apparently he watched fucking Harry Potter to get Fleur Delacour in this as well, which kind
Wow.
of freaked my bean.
And fucking Kenneth Branagh, who's
I don't know who that is.
he's the mean Russian. He's also the villain of Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Whoa, the
forgot about that.
crossovers.
And the director of Thor.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm just saying that a
He's
lot
also
of my...
the best actor in this movie.
He went so hard in the
Yeah,
paint.
he really went off.
He is the one person who realizes that this whole movie is just a weird Bond pastiche, and he is playing a fucking 80s era Russian supervillain
It's true.
on a quest to destroy time so no one else can have his hot, tall wife.
Yeah.
Which, like, same. I would also
Yeah.
go to lengths to make sure that Elizabeth Debicki was safe. Most of my notes were a combination of a lot of question marks, and also a lot of these people are hot, and it's hard to focus.
That's fair.
So
I will say too, on that like pastiche kind of thing, like I was very much hoping this would like lean into more of like the Bond stuff, or like even just like a Mission Impossible kind of vibe. Like I thought we were just gonna like have big guns, attractive people, things are gonna go explode, and we'd have a great time. And I was like, this is just trying so hard, and it's trying to take itself so seriously, while also all that stuff is happening, but not enough to be like, this is like really leaning into like a ridiculous like Tom Cruise kind of bit. Like
I
it
agree.
just felt so weirdly in between those two things. I'm like, I don't know which we want to be. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. Like,
I will say, I think if I have a problem with this movie,
Oh, no.
Right.
I think it is John David Washington as the protagonist, and that's just his...
I am the protagonist.
That is his titled name in the screenplay and all of the fan fiction. And, it's never really explained why he doesn't have a name, and it's also never really explained why he doesn't have a personality or any sort of, listen, I also loved Black Klansman, came out of it thinking, oh, John David Washington, there's someone to look out for. He just brings nothing to this movie, and I firmly believe you could cast anyone else as the protagonist, and odds are it's a better movie.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I found out after watching this movie that John David Washington was keeping up a diary with backstory about the protagonist.
Mhm.
And I was like, whoa, I love actors. I love film.
Yeah.
But also, the amount of times that I looked over at Chris when we were watching this last night, and I was like, but what's his name? Why do the subtitles keep saying protagonist? What's his name? And Chris was like, I guess you'll find out. Not helpful.
You never
No.
find out.
I will say, he does add something to this movie, which I very much appreciate, which is every once in a while, he'll just start doing pull-ups in just a random precarious place. And it happens multiple times throughout this movie, and it's never not great. Like, it's just like, oh, cool. It's my like, it's my fucking pull-up break. I just get a little, like,
I love that.
a minute of just relaxation with my boy, just doing pull-ups off a boat or in a weird precarious ladder in the middle of nowhere. Like, great. Why not? I love it.
One of my favorite movements, like physical moments in this movie with John David Washington is when they are like bungee jumping, but backwards or whatever the fuck. And they just like jump onto a building.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite
Yeah.
moments.
That was a great time.
But again, could have been anyone. I will say that during a lot of his acting moments, specifically with Priya, right? He sounds so much like his dad.
Yes, it is. Why am I now blanking on his name as I was about to
Denzel?
explain that he is the son of Denzel Washington, yes.
Yeah.
The Washington?
The George Washington?
No, never. Yes, there were a lot of moments while I was watching this that I was like, damn, I really want to watch Remember the Titans. But that's a different problem, I guess.
Can we talk about the multiple times in which the phrase "we live in a Twilight world" is uttered?
Yes.
What the fuck? The first time.
The first sentence even spoken.
I about shit bricks. I could not believe that Nolan personally looked me in the face and was like, hey, we're going to have several Twilight references in this, but it's also going to be about time, so good fucking luck. Like, no! They say it so many times. God, it pisses me off.
Listen, there are no friends at dusk, you know?
Like, listen, we all get it. Whitman, he's cool or whatever. But stop it.
Knock it off.
Knock it off. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about Robert and his scarf.
Oh, yes. And his beautiful hair.
And his just good time looking blonde hair.
Just like, but the way, like, the cut is very nice. Like, and it's always just moving in the wind in some sort of way. It's just lovely. It's just I just love looking at him the whole time.
Me too.
There was one moment in the beginning where he was wearing the most ill-fitting suit I've ever seen on a man in my entire life. But after that, everything else was smooth sailing. But I was very concerned. I'm like, I can't watch this for 2.5 hours. I can't do big suit Rob. I can't.
At least not in a fucking Bond movie. I could do Big Suit Rob in other things, but
sure.
Not this.
Yeah,
I've always thought he could play David Byrne. That lines up.
Oh,
okay.
No.
Listen.
You set Cody off. You said the wrong words.
Now that's fun. That's a fun idea.
I would love that. Here's what I'll say about Neil's character. One, he's enigmatic as fuck, which annoys me, because just tell me your business. Why are you here? Why do you know so much? Why do you have a master's in physics? Who does that? And also, by the end of it, I was like, oh, well, they're dating.
They're boyfriends.
They're boyfriends. And the way that it ends with Neil being like, I had you in the past and now you're going to have me in the future. I was like, okay, time traveler's wife. I love this shit. What is this?
I was going to say, like, your penance for time travel romance movies, Tenet really should be right up your alley. Because this movie is front to back an unintentional gay romance.
I know!
Which is
absolutely.
Which is a recurrent theme throughout Nolan's works, mainly because he does not know how to write female characters. There's a wide array of fanfiction you can find online for just about any Nolan film of all of these ships that are so clearly written into the text, but are not in the text at all.
I agree. I'm so glad that you brought that up about women's characters. Because, hey, Nolan, I know that you're listening to this, so what's up, first of all?
Hi.
Cool name. Second of all, why the fuck did the only thing that you got out of fucking Widows was Elizabeth Debicki only plays really well in movies when she's a sad, abused wife. Nolan, what the fuck? Have you ever seen this woman? Let her live. Let her not be sad for once.
Please.
I think how much better this movie would be if Debicki was the protagonist.
Oh,
if she
my
was
God.
just
So much cooler.
just tall woman beating up people in a kitchen. Just
That's all I want.
oh
God.
yeah.
That kitchen scene was super cool.
First of all, give Elizabeth Debicki a break. She's always in sad movies, and she deserves to have a good time.
I agree.
It's what she deserves. And two, I feel like all that Nolan took from the hashtag let Elizabeth Debicki be tall discourse that was going on Twitter for a while now was like, bet I'm gonna have her in my movie and she's gonna be tall and that's it.
And that's it.
She's gonna be sad, she's gonna be abused, she's gonna say not a lot, and she's gonna be pretty and tall.
She's gonna be tall.
I just wonder what would
Yeah.
happen if the version that male directors have of Elizabeth Debicki and the version that male directors have about fucking Michelle Williams, if those two women met in a box, if they would just be like magnets and corrode each other.
They would just both keep crying until they drowned each other. It just
That's kind of
it
beautiful.
wouldn't be words, it would just be sobs.
Oh my god. I will say too, well, I love, and obviously this is a gay movie, but but the chemistry between John David Washington and Elizabeth Debicki, with Elizabeth Debicki being so much taller than him, really lit a fire in me. In a
I
way
didn't know
cannot
I
describe.
needed it.
But it was so, I loved it. I loved
was so
every
powerful.
brief fleeting moment of that there was.
I just want her to be tall and just be powerful and strong.
Yeah.
Or even, she doesn't even need to be like, not all women characters need to be strong, but just like, don't let her get hit.
Yeah.
She can hit people. She's taller than people. Don't let her get hit. It makes me so mad.
I will say, she fucking whips Kenneth Branagh at the end of this, though.
That's
She
true.
just...
It does, like, her height becomes an actual, like, plot point that is
She-
important, you know?
She ganks him and then just Titanics him off that boat to when he just conks up against the railing.
Oh my
And
god.
it is
So good.
Delightful.
So good.
Off of a sunscreen slip and slide.
That moment when well, it's not him, but like when his character just smacks up against the
Mhm.
boat was powerful.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening there. I feel like we should probably talk about the car scene because what is happening there? Why because I think based on what I got from the trailer, there were like three main like big action moments that happen in this. One where it starts in that opera house.
Mhm.
The second in the cars where they go zoom zoom, but bad. And then the weird moment at the end when the building blows up, but it doesn't, but it also blows up.
Yes,
Yeah.
the battlefield sequence.
Yeah.
Where it turns into a game of Team Fortress. Like,
It really does.
There's a red team, there's a blue team, but they're not fighting each other. They're fighting mysterious Russians
Who control time?
who want to end time.
Right.
Because
My
the
bad,
future is
sorry.
very bad, and we have to reverse polarity so that time reverses itself.
Listen, I love sci-fi, okay? I love it when people make up shit. But these are just fake words. And I wish that Nolan would just acknowledge that, like, what is entropy really? What is time really? But he took it in the sense of, like, instead of providing definitions, he was like, what if I make it more fucked up?
Yeah.
Actually. And
Yeah.
that hurts me as someone who cannot understand time to begin with.
Here's the thing too, like he does like have an establishing scene, right? Where it's like, here are kind of the rules of the thing, like like the bullets and the guns
True.
or whatever, and you get like a very basic idea of like, oh, it's like, you know, it's inverted and it's going like here's all the ways that it works or whatever.
You
But
have
that
to
is like
cause
this.
it.
Right, yeah, but that is the smallest scale version of an example,
Yeah.
and John David Washington immediately is like, got it, I can use this for everything. I can use this in any conceivable way, and you're like, wait, so and while watching it, you're like, how, like, you're trying to do fucking mental gymnastics to be like, I have to think of this backwards, like, I have to, like, think of the cause and effect and fucking whatever, like, and it's just like, I don't think I got from A to B here, I think there's a bit of a jump.
Especially that happens an hour into the movie
Mhm.
before the movie
Yeah.
goes back, like before they go back in
Yeah,
time.
before the movie starts over, but in reverse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
My favorite part of that whole sequence where he's talking to the scientist is there's a moment where the scientist is just like, don't think about it too hard, just feel it.
Yeah.
And it's literally the same thing as in Austin Powers 3
Yes.
when Basil looks at the camera and was like, don't think about it too hard. And then they just do time travel.
For real.
Like,
that should have been on every poster for
Yeah.
this fucking movie. Like,
Tenet,
that is
don't
the
think about it
thesis.
too much.
Just
Yeah.
don't think about it.
Just-
You'll probably have fun. Like, just don't. The second you think about it, you're like, well. Like,
and that's the thing of like why I kind of think this movie ultimately works is if you bring just enough of what you expect out of a Chris Nolan movie to it, it's like,
sure.
okay, I know I'm going to be a little bit confused and there's going to be big set pieces, Faces, it delivers both of those in spades, where it's like, okay, here's a cool concept. I don't necessarily follow the grander, I don't necessarily follow all of the recursive timelines that are being constructed, or how the first scene of this movie canonically takes place at the end of the movie, but you trust that it's like, this probably makes sense. Someone on Reddit has composed a graph that I can look at later where it'll make sense. And they have. So if you want to understand it, you can sit down, do the research, and make it work. But if you just want to sit down in the theater and just see things blow up while Travis Scott goes, whoa, 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 in your ear a lot, that's also there.
That's also your choice, you know?
Yes.
I'm glad I didn't see it in the theater, obviously for a lot of reasons, but like, from what I heard of anyone who watched it in a theater, they're like, the audio in this is, what? What's going on? And like, there's definitely that in the mix across all platforms, but if I had that fucking surround sound as shit, like, fucking in a movie theater, I think I might have died in it. Like, I think I don't know
agree.
if I would have made it out of there.
This movie like cracked my back a little, just in that IMAX surround sound, just like the qualm is like, you hear vertebrae popping, and it's like, you walk out a new man.
Okay, so this is fucked up. So the score of this literally raised my blood pressure when we were watching it. I was so stressed out, and then it wasn't until I Googled it later that I figured out that Ludwig, who's the composer for this, like, he recorded the orchestra front ways and back. What is that called?
He recorded it both traditionally and also had them play the same score reversed, and then he reversed the recording.
Oh my
god.
God.
It's backwards people playing real music.
Oh.
I will say, even if you have zero interest in watching Tenet, you should listen to the score sometime, because it is just I honestly think, the best expression of the weird, fucked up time scale shit that Nolan is attempting in this movie. Much like Dunkirk, the score is kind of the actually great part of the whole thing. That is what is actually pushing you through this whole 2.5 hour experience. But it is just that perfect sense of just like, no matter what you are doing, the Tenet score will make it feel like, oh, everything is at stake here. All of time is falling apart, and it's just, it whips. It's
very
good.
Interesting. I think I personally expected when we first started watching this, I falsely assumed that it was Hans Zimmer, because Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer work together all the time. But when I was reading the Wikipedia afterward, it said Nolan couldn't work with Hans Zimmer because he was working on Dune. Sad face. So, so I had to get Ludwig Jorgensen, I think it is, who has, and just for a brief moment, I just want to touch on this man's discography, because you told me, Chris, that he worked on Black Panther, and that's why Nolan started to work with him.
That was the thing I mostly knew him from.
Right, which makes complete sense. But when you look at this man's discography, can I just say that he worked on Jennifer's Body, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
He also worked on Creed, which, sure, great. Yeah. Black Panther, which everyone knows him for. And also, here's the two twists that I love about this complex man. Venom and Trolls World Tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, connecting a lot
range.
of dots. That's what I'm saying. It's
a lot of
just
prime
very powerful.
cinema experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that raises my blood pressure, but for different ways, I will say. Very powerful man. But yeah, the music is haunting. I love it, but I also hate it, and that makes me sad. And I will say that Travis Scott song came like a fucking punch to the gut at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Just because I always associate him with falling during his concert. And so every time I hear Travis Scott try to actually be an artist, it is always wild to me.
And it is, because it is basically him just wrapping the plot of the movie like it is, again, either a very old Bond film or just fucking Deep Blue Sea, where he's just like talking about like everything's inverted, breaking into, fucking free ports. It's so good. This is I think part of the reason that I am just, like, when we watched this last night, I had the biggest grin on my face the entire time.
You were so
just
happy.
like, I am powerless to what this movie is putting out. And I think it's because there's a part of me that it's like, if I was a kid and I just happened upon this at like if this was just playing on TNT or something, and even if you just come in halfway through, it's like, I have no idea what's going on, but just the audacity of this film is
Mhm.
present in absolutely every moment.
It's true.
And I think that is ultimately the thing I come to Chris Nolan for, is I come to him
Sure.
for his weird eccentricities and his shortcomings. Like, this makes me appreciate the fact that it's like, you know, I don't think I'd love this as much if the whole time travel thing was clearly explained. I feel like
Right.
it
Yeah.
is better off for kind of just being left up to user interpretation.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Also, I did just want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that the end of this movie sets up for a sequel? Because I was confused by the end for a lot of different reasons, but I'm also curious, Cody, do you think that, like, did it give off sequel vibes to you at the end?
I don't think so. I didn't get that when I was watching it, but I would love a little fucking like sidebar of just like their fucking 30 years of like hanging out and being
'Cause-
buds.
Because that is the space where it's like, if Nolan did want to canonize, you know, that pairing, which I will tell you now, the fan fiction community has dubbed Protagonil. Like,
Oh shit.
Oh, God.
like, because there is something very genuinely tragic and romantic about that setup.
I know.
Just this idea of, you have met the love of your life, you've seen him die, and now you're about to meet him for the first time. And
It's literally why The Time Traveler's Wife is one of my favorite books of
Yeah.
all time. I love that. So that is like that good shit to
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
God, if I think about, like, that is one of the main things I got out of this movie, is I'm like, damn, I really want to see Robert and John David Washington do more stuff together. They make me happy.
I'd like to see them kiss.
I would like to see them kiss.
Your Honor,
Would-
I would.
I would also like to see them kiss, but I want them to do it on, like, a boat that's exploding or something.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the fellas,
I want them to do
you
it
know,
while fighting a shark.
Oh, God, this movie is so ridiculous. Not to mention, and this is the last thing I think I want to say about it, is can we talk about that fight scene that happened backwards
Mhm.
2 times?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it's just John David Washington fighting himself and also kind of just holding himself up, doing weird flips.
I just
Ugh.
cannot imagine how the actual filming over the 3 months that this took worked, where Christopher Nolan was just like, just hear me out. It's gonna be great.
Guys, like, I
This will
have to
come together.
imagine every day in a production meeting, he just pulled out some action figures and just like, okay, now he's gonna go like this and gonna do this sort of flip. And bam, 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 bam. And it's like, everyone on set is like, fuck it, he made Inception, this'll probably work. And just really carrying it on the fact that it's like, if this was a bad idea, Warner Brothers wouldn't have given him this much money, right? And
Right.
the answer
It's
is like,
too late to return it, so I
Yeah.
think we'll just ride this out.
kind of hot committed.
Yeah, I feel like the only way to use this money properly is to get 4 real planes instead of miniatures and just fuck around with them a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Just see what happens. See what their vibe is. God, this movie is weird. Ugh.
Mm.
I'm very curious to know what other people's thoughts on this are going to be.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm just now starting to see, like, think pieces come out about it.
Yeah, a part of me is weirdly relieved that this did not get, like, a traditional big wide release in a time when a pandemic was going on. Because I get the sense a lot of people would have gone and just gotten the vibe of like, I don't get it, I don't love it. And now there's this weird sense of like, if you want to see Tenet, you really have to do the fucking work.
Right.
Either, like, I drove 2 hours out of my way to see this at an IMAX theater. I bought N95 masks, and it was just like, okay, I've been in quarantine for 6 months. I need to feel like something in my life has progressed from something I am looking forward to something that has actually happened. So, went, saw this movie, I was like, okay, I did it. There's now nobody else who did the same thing, so I guess I just have to keep this to myself.
Yes.
And so that is partially why I am glad I was brought on the pod today to just get some of this out, to fully...
And now we can never talk about it.
Yeah,
It'll be great.
and now it will be sealed away for an undisclosed amount of time until people in the future open it in the crystalline castles
I'm gonna
and
pass out.
all of time ends. Because that's the thing, is once we're done recording this podcast, then it goes into the record, then at any point someone in the future could listen to this, call it back, and then John David Washington will walk in right now and be like, stop.
Ugh.
Like, whoa.
If any of my actions require John David Washington coming in and saying stop, then I need to reevaluate.
Yeah, what mistake
God,
could you
he's here.
possibly
Guys.
make?
Oh,
no!
No. Oh,
Cody,
God.
what did you do?
No.
Oh, fuck. I thought falsely when we watched this movie, I was like, oh, it'll be such a great break from the host. And now I'm more confused. And that's a problem. But next week, we get back chapters 9 and 10 of The Host.
Hell yeah.
And listen, we're coming, it's the end of the year. We're just gonna fucking make it work. I don't know what's going on in The Host, but we'll make it work.
We're
And
gonna
it'll
keep
be
on
fun.
trucking and pretend like we do.
It's true. We have a whole bunch of patrons to be able
Hell
to
yeah.
thank today.
Am I allowed to get up very close to the mic ASMR style?
Maybe.
Shout out Althea Johnson.
Good work.
Stop.
Oh
Stop.
my
Oh, no. Oh, I forgot that. I forgot that.
Listen, keep in mind, these people are paying for this.
They
so
are.
You better fucking make it worth every dollar.
Thank you to Mallory Hardwick.
Thank you.
Stop it.
Shout out Katie Black.
Oh, thank you to Kylie Minty.
Oh, Minty.
Shout out Elizabeth James.
Pow, 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 pow.
Thank you to Just Love.
You did it.
Woo. Shout out Alex Dornan.
Pew, pew.
Thank you to Carrie Goldberg.
Woo! Shout out Mickey Meyer.
Yay.
Thank you to Zoe Steele.
Thank you for the money.
Shout out Rebecca Cullen.
You opened your wallet so
You're
wide.
so close to mine. The amount of people that are going to either, this is going to be really their thing, or they're going to find out it's not their thing.
Listen, I know we're not at promos yet, but like I would like to now announce my ASMR OnlyFans.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
This is my hell. Thank you to Amy Taylor.
Shout out Molt Gray.
Ouch. Thank you to our unofficial intern, Taylor Brown Town Lautner, who still makes TikToks that really concern me. I hope you're doing okay.
Shout out Danae Swan.
Thank you to Aaron Weber.
Shout out to Gwen Stanley.
Thank you to my mom, Kelly Beck.
Ow.
We love you and appreciate you.
Shout out Aaron Salinger.
Thank you to Sophia Salinger. No relation, but also last name.
Shout out India Peach.
Thank you to Jay Molina.
Ow. Shout out to Casey Yorkie. Ooh.
Okay, so I asked Chris about a week ago if he was going to get fanfiction, because we have backups. We can use them. And what did you say to me, Chris?
I said I already have AO3 opened up. Like,
If only I knew that I could have just tapped into your resources for the past 4 years to find fanfiction. That would have saved me so much time. So, Christopher, what did you bring to the space today?
So I have an excerpt from a fan fiction titled Day Off, and I am going to hand you an excerpt.
No,
and
you have to read it.
I thought this worked how you read it.
Nope.
Okay.
No, you...
Okay.
No, you have to read it.
Oh no! I'm more excited for you to hear this.
Okay,
Oh,
who's
God.
it by?
It is by Bishneez. Look at how this is spelled. I don't know what the appropriate
Yeah, I think
pronunciation
Bees
is.
Knees is fine.
Bees actually published on October 18th, one day before my birthday. So
Wow,
clearly
happy
it's just for me.
belated birthday to you, babe. All right, great.
Neil melted below him already, eyes closed as he let out a guttural, dirty moan. He always forgot just how amazing it felt when he entered in for the first time in a while, like two lost lovers becoming whole again. It was rare they could do this often due to how busy and stressful they were. Even though they were on missions together often, there was always work to be done before the fun could begin.
Oh, God.
But it just meant that times like these were even better. They could sneak in a handy in their hotel rooms after a mission, or blowjobs in the cupboards between meetings. But this was something else entirely. God, Neil, you're always so tight for me, the protagonist murmured out, pressing a kiss to his neck as he let them pause to breathe a second. Neil wrapped his arms around his neck, pulling him in for a gentle, passionate kiss. I bloody love you, you know, he whispered in his charming English accent. The protagonist felt an overwhelming warmth blossom in his chest as he pecked his lips. Enough of the sap. Fuck me till I can't walk, Neo stated.
Is that it?
That is it.
Wow.
Snaps. That was beautiful.
Oh my God, Christopher.
Wow. Ooh, is it hot in here? Is it just me?
Oh, no, it's not just you. Wow. Okay. Great job, first of all.
Yes.
Thank you for finding that. Also, where can folks support you online? Aside from your fucking fake ASMR OnlyFans.
Listen, I'll hijack this feed later to promote the ASMR OnlyFans when that goes up. Otherwise, just follow me on Twitter at ChrisBerg25. Berg spelled B-E-R-G.
This has been a joy to have you on the pod instead of just yelling when you're upstairs doing dishes or something for an hour, pretending that I'm not just screaming downstairs. Let's never do this again.
I mean, until Robert Pattinson is in another Christopher Nolan project.
That's really fair.
Until he discovers the power of Kristen Stewart.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. I don't even want to talk about it. Well, this has been a blast. And as we say here in the Pacific Northwest,
Get bit.
and get whipped.
Woo!
Woo!
Into the Twilight is an Earbud Media production. Our theme music is by Eli Krause, and our artwork is by Maddie Padilla. Follow the show on Twitter at Into the Twilight, and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/intothetwilight. Send us an email or a fanfiction at intothetwilightshow@gmail.com. You can find Allie at Into Wild Places and me at Cody Crow. You've been listening to Earbud Media Production. Earbud Media, audio for everyone.